I've played tons of PS1 games, and over the course of my YouTube and Twitch career, I've had the luxury of enjoying these live in front of you every single day for the most part. Some of the games I play are awesome, some are horrible, but today I'm going to talk about the good ones, games that you should check out if you really want to get some bang for your buck on the PlayStation 1. These are games that impressed me, and I had fun with them, and I feel you might too. Let's begin. There was a point in time where I played the original Castlevania games, and those were awesome. Castlevania 1, 2, and 3 on the NES are all phenomenal games in their own way. But after playing Super Castlevania 4, I wasn't sure if I would enjoy any other Castlevania games. And because I don't just choose which games I play, nobody wanted to see any more Castlevania stuff, so it kind of lingered. Then one day a franchise lock was put into place for Castlevania on the stream, and that opened the floodgates for me to keep playing these awesome titles. And one of the games I encountered was Castlevania Chronicles. Now this game is interesting because it's actually a remake of an older game for a home computer, Akumajo Dracula aka Castlevania 1 for the Sharp X68000 computer, which I did try to emulate, but that emulation was much to be desired. So the next best thing was Castlevania Chronicles on the PlayStation 1, but it's expensive as fuck, like a $200 game on a good day, so emulation it was. I was very impressed at how this game played out. I felt that as a remake of the original Castlevania, this was so badass. The way Simon could move was so fluid, and to me, this is the definitive version of Castlevania 1, period. You can also choose to play the original version or the arranged version. I suggest giving both a shake. We talk a lot about Final Fantasy compilations. I'm a huge fan of them because you're getting a lot of bang for your buck. We've covered the Final Fantasy Anthology, Final Fantasy Chronicles, and here we are with the Final Fantasy Collection. Now this is a Japanese-only release, but it contains 3 specific games, Final Fantasy 4, 5, and 6. They are all enhanced ports of their respective Super Famicom versions, and the big differences are notable outside of the actual games. This particular collection offers FMV cutscenes, art galleries, and bestiaries. When it came time to sell this in America, they said no thank you, and instead decided to squeeze us for more money by breaking this particular collection up and releasing it as Chronicles and Anthology. They also decided to tuck in another game, Chrono Trigger, at least for the Anthology disc. Honestly, if you like import games, this is one you should buy. It looks really pretty. Look at this. Nice. When it came to a flagship fighting franchise, Namco hit the ground running and struck gold with Tekken. Tekken 1 was kind of stiff, but I still liked it. Tekken 2 was even better, but to me, to date at least, Tekken 3 was the best. It was the first arcade game built on Namco's System 12 hardware, and since it was so badass in the arcades, it was destined to be badass on the PS1. I know not many people play Tekken or Street Fighter for the lore, but if you do care, this game takes place 20 years after the events of Tekken 2. And from a gameplay mechanic standpoint, they didn't change too much. Every character had a special sidestep move, and speaking of characters, there was a significant boost to the roster with 21 playable characters, 7 of which came from Tekken 2. The console version had some exclusive characters as well, such as Dr. Boskanovich and Gon, which is a nod to a manga series created by Masashi Tanaka. It's some weird fucking dinosaur, but he's cute as fuck! Also, if you get tired of duking it out one-on-one, you could play an alternative mode known as Tekken Force, which is a beat-em-up minigame, which makes a return in Tekken 4. The more you know, right? Final Fantasy on the NES is one of my favorite JRPGs, and to be honest, it was one of the first JRPGs I played with the intention of checking out the genre way back when I was stationed in Korea in 2014. It's something that I talk about all the time because it is an important part of my gaming journey. Final Fantasy II, I love that game as well, even though many people do consider it a black sheep in the franchise, and for good reason. The leveling mechanic was kind of off-putting, but I didn't mind. Now, when I started collecting games, I wanted to own Final Fantasy 1 and 2. Here's the problem. Final Fantasy 1 was released in America, Final Fantasy 2 was not. It was a Famicom exclusive, so the only way I thought I could play it was on the iPhone. But sure enough, there was another compilation that took all the guesswork out of it for me, and that was Final Fantasy Origins. This disc contains an enhanced WonderSwan port of Final Fantasy 1 and 2 with graphical updates that make it seem like it was a Super Nintendo game, and I love that. This game also threw in some FMVs that kind of break the monotony in major sequences in the game. If you want to play the first 2 Final Fantasy games on retro hardware, this is the game to get. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was the closest I ever came to stepping on a skateboard. It wasn't something I was interested in. And to be honest, this game really showed me how important video games were to people. In those worlds, we could do whatever we wanted to do. We could go away to faraway lands. We could fly a spaceship. And here I was, doing something as simple as skateboarding. I know I could have asked my mom to buy me one, but why bother? I could just sit in my bed and do the same thing without breaking any bones. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1, epic game, and I was beyond stoked to check out the sequel. Some of you might have actually watched me play it live because it was a recent game that I played, and to me it was basically the same as the first game, but in some weird way, I did find it to be slightly better. It just felt better. The controls and the abilities felt more fine-tuned, and I appreciate that. After playing Final Fantasy III, I was positive that there would never be another JRPG that would captivate me. After all, what game could ever hold a candle to the golden standard of the JRPG? And unbeknownst to me, Grandia was exactly that game. I do have to give a shout out to Old Man Sim. He's a Twitch streamer and a fellow YouTuber who forced me to play it through an override. And let me tell you, this game fucks. The music is badass, the story seems like it's constantly developing, the overworld sections aren't a chore, there's no goofy fetch quest, we just deal with everything that comes our way. There are save prisms strategically placed that give us free healing, and a save before major fights. The economy of equipment is epic, the characters are all awesome in their own way, and the way by which we level up our abilities is unique as well. Certain weapons power certain magical abilities, and should we use said magical abilities often, we can level them up. Now I will say Grandia 2 is better to me in every comprehensible way, but I played that on the Dreamcast, so don't be surprised if it shows up on a Dreamcast list. For a long time, I hated From Software. I hated how they set a niche with Armored Core and then burnt that franchise to the fucking ground, at least for a while. I hated that Dark Souls has become the status quo for action-adventure games and how they keep re-releasing the same copy and paste bullshit every few years. And I hate how DLC is now magically considered for Game of the fucking Year. I still can't believe Shadow of the Erdtree was nominated. But my personal opinion aside, a while back, the second company I tried to conquer was From Software. So I went all the way back to the start of their library and was graced by the wonderful series that is Kingsfield. To me, Kingsfield is Dark Souls 0. A lot of things in the game would make a return in later Dark Souls games, and it's brutally unforgiving. Now the game you're looking at right now is Kingsfield in America, but in reality, it's Kingsfield 2. The original one wasn't released here, which is a shame because that game was awesome. It's a true-to-form RPG, but has a sense of adventure that doesn't overstay its welcome. I will say navigating the halls or remembering which key to use and take and use it again, the routes can be annoying, and it can be frustrating that you move so slow. But I really enjoyed it, and I found it to be an exceptional continuation of the story of Kingsfield 1. Plot-wise, we play as Prince Aleph, who is on a journey to recover the Moonlight Sword. That's it, and I'll leave the rest up to you. I fucking hate Glover. It is a soul-depleting, fun-erasing, rage-sparkling, joy-evacuating shitfest on the Nintendo 64 that ruined my childhood. Basically, we play as a sentient masturbatory glove, trying to find all of these balls that we have to take to a fountain and convert them to crystals to revert our master back to his true self. And on the Nintendo 64, that consisted of this wishful thinking style of controls that felt like operating a forklift on ice. I appreciate what they tried to do, but it didn't pan out well at all. The ball mechanics were okay, but this is the Nintendo 64, where everything looks like it was made with Play-Doh, and the camera's your worst enemy. Then, I played the PS1 version, and folks, it's day and night. The analog stick for the N64 was hit and miss. On the PS1, It wasn't. Glover on the PS1 has better music, better graphics, better controls, a more intuitive camera. I actually enjoyed playing Glover on the PS1. And that fucking blew my mind. It blew my mind more than when I discovered nacho cheese isn't really cheese. That's a big fucking deal. I was always curious how Capcom would handle JRPGs, and Breath of Fire was exactly that for me. My introduction to how they would take on the genre happened a long time ago, about 7 years ago. It was probably the 4th JRPG I played on stream. To be honest, it felt too easy, too linear. I mean, it's a game I suggest to people when they ask for an entry-level JRPG because it felt like it was. Breath of Fire 2 was basically the same thing, but I felt that it started off really slow. Then it was time for Breath of Fire 3. So many people told me that Breath of Fire 3 and also 4 were the pride and joy of the franchise and that I would love it. And guess what? I did. Long before Octopath Traveler did it, Capcom was out here flexing 2D sprites that looked amazing. The environments looked even more amazing. You could choose masters to boost certain stats, and the story, much like Grandia, flowed very well. I didn't have to contend with expositional melodrama being jackhammered in my fucking head like you would see with The Legend of Dragoon or Final Fantasy VII. It was a balanced story with themes of prejudice, social isolation, family issues, and acceptance of a reality by which we live in every day. It's one of the best JRPGs on the PS1. Period. Resident Evil may not have created the survival horror genre, but it certainly fine-tuned it. Between Resident Evil and Silent Hill, those two games set the standard for what a quality survival horror game should be. Now, Resident Evil 1 was plagued with horrible voice acting and shitty camera angles, and those same angles, when combined with tank controls, usually equal a bad time, but I still loved the game. Resident Evil 2 was just as good. So here we are in the final mainline Resident Evil entry on the PS1 with Nemesis. One of the things I really dig about this game is that we aren't isolated to a specific building, right? Resident Evil had the mansion, Resident Evil 2 had the police station, but in 3, Jill is straight up yeeted into the crumbling remains of Raccoon City, and with branching paths that show up through the game, to me it maintains a higher level of replayability than the other two games combined. Granted, both of them do have B scenarios, but I didn't really care to check those out, right? In fact, if you take the time to play the RE3 remake, you'll see just how the original game stands up to this day. It was nice to get a fresh coat of paint, but from the bottom up, the game was solid. And that's it for today's episode. What did you think of this list? Are there any PS1 games that you think I or maybe someone else in the community should check out? Feel free to let us know down in the comment section below. Speaking of our community, if you made it to the end of this episode, you're already home with us. We're gathering of video game enthusiasts that love to remember when life was just a little bit easier to live. And if you align with that, feel free to subscribe. Finally, the single most important thing you could do for me is to hit that thumbs up button, as it directly affects the visibility of the videos and the projects that I work on every single day. As always, from my family to your family, good energy, good vibes. Fortefyre out.